Our systems, sometimes we obviously have trouble trying to track down Tom Strader from MG12, so I'm going to do a little promo on both. First, the MG12, I use the products all the time. I can tell you externally it has the Dead Sea minerals, which has 14 minerals not present in either the soil or the ocean or other waters around the world. Those minerals are important for bodily functions and enzyme activation. The MG12 magnesium oil, bath salts. One of my favorites is to use the what's called Magna Sport or the magnesium oil in my bath, along with using the Magna soap. They have the underarm deodorants, shampoo, and other topicals. They are amazing for remineralizing your body. And if you use those along with taking NDMEs, which optimizes your mineral absorption into your cellular areas, you take our Vitamineral Max Minerals Plus and all our nutraceuticals with our Trax amino acid chelated minerals. Do not take orally ionic minerals or inorganic minerals thinking you're going to absorb them that have been mined from the ground, like Utah or the shilajit from the Himalayas. You want to have our Trax amino acid chelated minerals. They bypass, because they're brought in by proteins into the cell by separate transport mechanisms. Now the second thing is the pure water system, and I tell people the amount of salt on the physical body, the worst thing is the amount of toxins in the water. And even in bottled water, much of them are just literally laced with not only biotoxins but also fluoride, up to 400 parts per million or higher. You want to have our pure water system. No other system, Berkey or even distillation system, will get rid of all biotoxins, because much of the distillate will end on the other side and actually you're drinking it. Don't think because water is clean or doesn't taste bad, it doesn't have toxins in it. Our pure water system generates water which is 100% rheologically clean, so you can do a lab experiment. We add 9 to 18 parts per million of magnesium and calcium back in to bring the pH up to around 10. The multi-system is basically linear charcoal, which is very unique, the best aero membrane, then an ion exchange resin, and then a final phase which actually will add 9 to 18 parts per million calcium magnesium. So the water generated, it literally has TDS, and you get a TDS meter which shows the total dissolved solids and chemicals are 0. No fluoride, none. No radiotoxins, none. No Fukushima, no biotoxins, no we call xenoestrogens that block your sexual pathways in your body, creating a unisex. None of the things are going to bioaccumulate and cause cancer, etc. So you want to get a pure water system. The Bev 100, you get 10% off, by the way, if you use the code Nutrimed. You go to our link, you get 10% off. That's pretty good. Well, that's the arrangement I've got made with Bob. All of our customers get 10% off. You have the Bev 100 that can snap on in 5 minutes on your tap. The Bev 300 plumbs underneath your sink with a 5-gallon reserve tank. The Bev 200 is a tackle box system. You can have it at a base station, a camp. It literally on the run. You can have it in the back of your truck or car. The whole house system is amazingly easy to service. Anything else, from the industry, like the Culligan system, which is when it's wet, it's 100 and some pounds. This is 22-inch long, 3 different cylinders that are specially designed to pull out all the major biotoxins. So your showering water does not have trichloroethylene, your fluoride is reduced dramatically, your chemicals are basically reduced dramatically. And then when you put that whole house system, either for washing your clothes or taking a bath, you are dramatically biotoxin reduced to the point where it's virtually undetectable. And when you're drinking the water that's then passed through our pure water system, it is absolutely 0 toxins. So no other system compares to this. There is no competition. I challenge anybody to try to say that they have water that can be used in a lab experiment equivalent to the pure water system. They don't. Nobody else does. This is the system to get, okay? So those are important. I also want to mention the latest on our diagnostic technologies. We have the QRMA, Quantitative Resonant Magnetic Machine. Those people, if you're listening, if you have a QRMA, you do not have to pay an additional charge for sending me a consult form. It's just under the more information under consults, but ordinarily if someone comes in and wants to do a data dump with lots of medical records, but if you've purchased a QRMA for your immediate family, not for everybody around you, but your immediate family, I'll provide a consultation every couple months for you. You have to send me the history form and your compressed complete file of your QRMA, quantitative resonant magnetic. It measures 35 panels of tests. of every body system. And one-third of the tests are pretty straightforward. It shows you if you're low in vitamins, minerals, amino acids, etc. One-third require medical advanced knowledge, and one-third are very esoteric that if you don't have advanced understanding, they make no sense to you at all unless you're an expert like me. And then we have the Bioplasm Expert and Pro. The Expert covers a tremendous number of organ systems. They have the latest updated software. So if you previously bought a Bioplasm, I can obtain for you the upgraded software because you already have a system. We have the Pro, which has a lot of new organs and everything from new DNA scans, etc. It's more like a research version of it. And we have the most advanced in the world, which is a Bioplasm Clinical. It's basically equivalent to the Metapathia developed in Russia for the space agency, and it has a hunter function to actually hunt and seek bioplasmatic imbalances in your body, which means your bioplasmatic body is out of balance before you get a physical symptom or before you have a pathophysiological change that can be identified on a biopsy or other testing. If your bioplasmatic body indicates you're heading toward, let's say, disease like osteoporosis or heart disease or dementia or diabetes or other problems, we intervene with changing the bioplasmatic body as well as intervening with nutraceuticals to change the body's biochemistry, intermediate metabolism, and information flow, and we can go retest to see if it worked with not only the Bioplasm Clinical, which is the most advanced in for health professionals, nutritionals, experts, etc., or hospitals or major agencies. And we can also intervene by doing advanced functional medicine testing. So if you have a 8D-LRIS, which is one of our devices we have, a Bioplasm, send me the report along with history form, and I'll continue to do upgrades and tell you. Now, if you can't do a screenshot and send them the screenshots for the 8D-LRIS or the Bioplasm, I can log on to your computer with TeamViewer 10 and look at your data and your frequency matching remotely anywhere in the world. And when I converge all the data, which I will do, as I say, I have a capacity to do this intellectually. I converge all the data from your functional medicine tests, your conventional medicine tests, your imaging studies, your genetic analysis, your Prometheus analysis of your genetic data from 23andMe, etc., your organic acids from Genova Metametrics. I can converge all this data and come up with a synthetic analysis of what physiologically you have out of balance that's going to develop into disease, what diseases are present, and whether we're making progress at reversing the illness. And what imaging studies, analysis, for example, if you're looking at brain dysfunction, we can look at, say, quantitative electroencephalogram. So let's say you had a bilateral subdural hematoma from a traumatic brain injury from a car accident. I can tell you the tests to do, like a quantitative electroencephalogram, deep brain SPECT blood flow scan, positron emission tomography scans, functional MRI scans, neuropsychological testing, organic acids, all kinds of advanced testing that can actually tell us what's physiologically going on with your brain and whether or not we're changing your free radical load, because there's an upregulation of the microglia in the brain producing peroxynitrate and hydroperoxy radical, and those organic markers we can actually measure in your urine and stool, urine and blood. So there's really no need to think that your conventional doctor or even your basic level functional medicine doctor will come. I can act as a consultant to help them, but they're not going to know what I know. They're not. I'm writing these things. It will become standard of care 50 years from now. Not today. I will train doctors if they contact me, if they're functional medicine doctors in any area, if they're a plastic surgeon, general surgeon, neurologist, neurointensive care unit, dentist, chiropractor, naturopaths, acupuncturist. If they have a target area and they want to ask me questions, I don't ask to charge them for train them. I will just respond to them and tell them what they need to do to upgrade their practice so they'll be better doctors and health providers, whether they're a acupuncturist or a massage therapist or neurosurgeon. So don't be afraid. And as I say, you don't have to make the pressure on yourself. All you have to do is ask two questions. What's your phone number and what time can Dr. Deagle call you or email? And like a guided missile, I will help them. Medical report, we have one of my favorite guys, John from Nutrimedical. We mentioned, I was on last night on the second hour as an interview with Jeff Renson. I do the show, usually kind of do a compact answers about Fukushima Daiichi and what's going on in terms of GCMAF and other major news stories. I want people to understand, and I've said this on Jeff Renson's show, here at Nutrimedical, I provide the most advanced functional medicine, nutraceuticals, and protocols on earth, anywhere. And I'm talking about even comparing to all my colleagues that do functional medicine. These are the most advanced to integrate the very best and most advanced part of medicine. So you have to have medical qualifications to understand this, to read MRI scans, CT scans, PET scans, quantitative EEGs, organic acids, intermediate metabolites, immunology, etc., and the most advanced quantum functional medicine, which we have the Bioplasm NLS, the QRMA, Bioplasm Clinical, Bioplasm Expert, 8DLRIS, etc. Genetic analysis from 23andMe and Prometheus genetic SNP analysis of their database. Now, what's happening is we have a disaster brewing in Japan. It's been brewing for 4.5 years, and it's reaching another culmination of another what I call mega catastrophe that could occur any day now. And that is they dropped a 20-ton crane into the roof of the cooling pool of the MOX reactor. And mixed oxygen fuel is plutonium enriched pellets that are comparable to taking a VW Bug and replacing it with a Lamborghini nuclear. And to give you an example, I used this example last night. One of the experiments they did in Los Alamos when they were making the Manhattan Project to create the nuclear bomb is they had a ball of plutonium, and some smart physicist decided that he was going to tap it with a hammer. And of course, all of a sudden he saw a big flash, and his immune system crashed, and he started developing walking gas gangrene and died of a cardiorespiratory arrest within 48 hours. Now, you have to understand, when you're removing fuel rod assembly pellets, there's two major bad things that can happen. One is a hydrogen triggered by the zirconium cladding of the nuclear pellets and the fuel rod assemblies, and there's about 12 fuel rod assemblies in each bundle, each about an inch across. And a lot of them are mangled and damaged, which means they're going to be producing that, but also there's subsidence of the seal for the cooling pools, which means they can drain out water, and all of a sudden there basically is nothing to slow down the neutrons and stop what's called a hypercritical event. And these pellets could either do one of two things. They could explode and create a hydrogen-based triggered nuclear explosion, a big bomba, as you call it, the dirty bomb, or they could have what's called a pyrophoric fire. Now, the amount of isotopes in a penny, if distributed evenly across the western United States, would kill every living thing. And they have kilos of plutonium in these pellet fuel rod assembly bundles because it was a reactor that was illegally making plutonium pellets for the Japanese modernization of their nuclear forces, which, by the way, Obama, I call him the Abominator, if you want to call it the beast, and he is a beast, is weaponizing the heck out of Japan, which is scaring the heck out of China and North Korea, who is also crazy. But Japan has, with the Shinrikyo cult, and of course the head of the death cult is their Chinese prime minister. So you need to be aware that they're covering up all this stuff. They're reactivating nuclear reactors while the chances of a nuclear meltdown event and OI and other reactors from an earthquake or tsunami are dramatically increased, 500% increase in level 5 earthquakes or higher. So what's going on is we are in the northern hemisphere, and it pulses across to the southern hemisphere through the tropospheric escalator. 300 times more water per day is transitioning across the equator at 70 to 80,000 feet than the Amazon River every day. So people need to be aware there's oceanic currents that carries it across the equator to the northwest coast of South America, and there's also pulses of radiation that end up in the west coast, the east coast of Australia and the west coast of New Zealand. So you're not fully protected down there, and you're going to get big pulses of radiation. But here in North America, here in the Western world, here in the Northern Hemisphere, we're getting fried. Now, it's causing what's called a mitochondrial apocalypse, and a lot of people need to read. The amount of readings by Edgar Cayce were phenomenal, and he had to go into an altered conscious state, like basically a sleep state, in order to do his readings. But he was a Christian, and he prophesied this special form of iodine. The reason is the most serious thing happening to all life forms in the Northern Hemisphere, which is the desertification of the North Pacific Ocean, is the destruction of mitochondria. Mitochondria do not have the protective enzyme systems to protect the ring chromosome from oxidative stress, DNA adduction, and destruction of the DNA sequence. And therefore, the queen of the cell, which is mitochondria, is under attack. And when the queen dies, it sends out a signal called the death signal to the rest of the cell, which is why you die simply because your mitochondria shut down. If you had protofaction of your mitochondria, if you could create new mitochondria all the time, if you could keep a high redox state, you'll live considerably longer, which is why in a high oxygen environment like the antediluvian world, 2 atmospheres at 30% oxygen at sea level, people lived for hundreds, if not toward a millennium in terms of lifespan. And the primary reason for it is they lived in a hyperbaric world that had totally different redox potentials. Now, to restore your redox potential, the very first step is taking Nutridyne. Second step is nutraceuticals to restore your electron transport, like NADH, D-ribose, acetyl L-carnitine, Cognition Plus, etc., etc. Nutridefense to block the free radicals, carnosine to block singlet oxygen, cell detox glutathione for hydro and nitroproxy radical. But the most important of all is Nutridyne. And literally, I don't know of a disease that will not respond to Nutridyne. I'm actually discovering now, I don't care if it's baldness or a bump on the head from a car accident or a heart attack or post-ECMO brain where you've been hit with a heart-lung bypass machine, you got microclots that make you now not think straight, or you've had transcranial radiation because you had a head and neck cancer and you had radiation therapy with a proton beam or whatever you have. There's no illness that I can't see a dramatic improvement if you use Nutridyne. So what do you think, John? It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yes, sir. It certainly is. It's quite amazing that Edgar Casey came up with this and that it is such a effect on humankind.
It fits in with what I try to teach, in other parts of the show. I called in my Hebrew name, if you want to call it in Hebrew letters, which are archetype word letters, is Keeper of the Way. I call it we/I because we're both we and an I. And number 2 is Slayer of the Dragons, which is basically that we're just a self-sustaining entity that has to be like a super predator. And in fact, what happens is we're all connected. So when he was prophesying, just like we're all connected, he's acting like a retinal cell in the back of the fovea of mankind. And what I tell people to do is we need a spirituality revolution, not new religions. We need the relationship with the Most High God, the everlasting one. We need to realize we collectively are the bride of God. We need to start understanding that our world is dying, and we are complicit in that because we're preventing people from scientifically using rigorous scientific testing to prove what I'm saying is true, to use technologies to block it, because I've given technical answers exactly what they needed with Fukushima. But you out there every day and your pets need to be taking Nutridyne. Major. Stay right there. We'll be right back with John. If you have questions, I tell people the most important first nutraceutical you need to take is Nutridyne. Second one is Nutridefense. You need to be on Vitamin Mineral Max, Minerals Plus, and your antioxidants. But let me tell you, you cannot live a healthy life now without advanced nutraceuticals customized to your current challenges. Back in a moment. Welcome back. And so we talk about solutions here, and I'm working behind the scenes and actually developing and inventing new advanced technology for identifying, we call living pathology, we call advanced bioplasmatic functional medicine, which is considerably more advanced than just measuring organic acids and metabolites. Because you can actually, with the Bioplasm Pro and Expert right now, you can actually rings down to individual chromosomes, RNA, and specific genes. And what I see eventually is actually not only identifying the gene problem, but actually fixing it and even changing and modifying your genetics to correct genetic disorders after you're born. That's going to be a future possibility. And people say, that's not possible. I say, look, anything's possible. It says, now they are in one tongue and of one place. Nothing will be withheld from their imagination. So we have the creative capacity with things that God's given us, like Nutridyne, to deal with something that's as horrible a challenge as we call the wormwood, which is what's happened, the Chernobyl, the release from Fukushima, destroying the North Pacific, and we call a first oceanic radiological desertification. And I'm the first to coin that term, so if you use that term, refer to me and give me credit so you don't disuse the science, which is why I don't publish most of the things I've discovered, because it would be abused or turned into a weapon or misappropriated by health providers and drug companies to turn it into a drug or another industry, which I don't want. I want it available for all peoples. So once we eventually get life extension technology, one of those big steps is to take Nutridyne. In fact, you can start today. You don't have to wait. We have stem cell activating technologies like lumen photon and micropulse and mild hyperbaric oxygen. But the most important first step you need to take if you want to live long and prosper, like Spock would use with the Aaronic priesthood, where he separates his third and fourth fingers, live long and prosper is to take your Nutridyne. In fact, I got a big dropper right now. I'm dropping it in my SodaStream water right on my desk, and I'm putting in probably about 40, 50 drops there. So as I take this, any untoward pathogens that might have decided to hitch a ride on Dr. Deagle or my food that I ate today will be toast, like being hit by a plasma laser from deep space. They're not going to exist anymore. And any intracellular pathogens or anything across the biofilm is going to die. And the mitochondria that are hanging on, the body has the capacity, because of Nutridyne, to do what's called mitochondrial protofection, to make new mitochondria, get old damaged ones out of the way so they don't produce free radicals and destroy the cell. Because it's a two-edged sword. Mitochondria are necessary for cellular oxidative metabolism. But if you start running the damaged mitochondria, it's like running old machinery in a factory, and somebody tells you in the factory, well, that machine is running hot. If you run it any harder, it's going to start creating sparks and it might blow up and destroy your factory. Well, that's what happens in the cell, and people don't realize when you have accumulated biotoxins, heavy metals, and free iron, when you have a damage to the mitochondrial DNA and the oxidative metabolism, you end up with the cell going to what's called anaerobic stress, and it starts sending signals to the allelic chromosomes that actually tell the cell to go through programmed cell death or apoptosis. Not funny. And Dr. Warburg, from the mid-1930s right to 1969 when he published his work, and Guyton, who's the head of the project for the Guyton's Physiology, which is a standard text for all doctors and health professionals worldwide, has said oxygen is the primary cause. Well, oxygen converts to electrons, and the primary maintainer of electrons is your mitochondria, and the primary driver for that is monoatomic iodine that makes new T3 by stimulating outer ring deiodination, and protects your thyroid gland, and maintains healthy, functional, little mitochondrial soldiers in your cell to follow the queen, which is the mitochondrial ring chromosome in your cell, to maintain high levels of ATP and NADH. And if you do that, your cell is going to stay in a high redox state, will not grow stealth pathogens, will not turn on and off genes to turn into cancer, because cancer is an anaerobic condition with toxins and stealth pathogens that are intracellular that cause the cell to start turning on and off genes to go crazy. And that's why we can do gene-based tests like the ones in Cambridge, Massachusetts, that are used by Brzezinski Clinic, or the Eisels Clinic with Dr. Eisels and Dr. Kim at Santa Barbara, I can refer you to if you have cancer, that has a branch clinic, of course, in Tijuana that gives the E. coli's and the dendritic vaccine that is based on the RNA of the tumor that they extract with blood, and then they give you a T-cell activated clone they multiply in the cell lab and give it back to you, your own cells, multiplied to go and kill the cancer. So the key issue is, if you've got cancer, if you've got any chronic illness, if you've got any illness of any kind, you need Nutridyne. I don't care if it's a skin problem, an eye problem, a retinal problem, a heart disease problem, a chronic bronchiectasis problem, an inflammatory bowel problem, an autoimmune disease problem, a chronic period problems, polycystic ovarian problem, diabetic peripheral neuropathy problem. You need, and I'm not talking about little itty-bitty dosages of Nutridyne, you need whacking dosages. And when you start getting these higher dosages, you start seeing some amazing, amazing effects, don't you, John?
Yes, sir, certainly do. It is.
Yeah, we have people, for example, in heart failure, and you say, I'm not getting better. I'm saying, well, blood pressure and heart failure, which, by the way, you can just take a heart in an animal model, and you can chelate out the copper, and the heart will go into a myopathic form of heart failure within 48 hours. So the fact is, once you restore the mineral content, once you restore the phospholipids, and once you restore the mitochondria, and most of the drugs the doctors are giving, including calcium channel blockers, HMG CoRe reductase inhibitors, and beta blockers, all damage the oxidative metabolism and damage your mitochondrial ability to create electrons for your transport chain to make ATP and NADH. So if you wanted to fix it, you have to stop listening to your knucklehead doctors and take the minimum, or, like we said this morning in the first hour, if you're on cord 25 milligrams, split the dosage and get it at a minimum down to 6.025. If you have to take a beta blocker, and eventually we can get you off the darn stuff, never take a calcium channel blocker, ever, 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 like amlodipine. Never, ever take an HMD-CoRe reductase inhibitor. They've actually got lawsuits where the big drug companies are getting sued. And everybody, not just the people with thyroid disease, needs to be on Nutrimedical. Everybody. Because we're all infested with pathogens. And that's why the first question I ask medical students and residents, and I usually trip them up on this, and they all get the wrong answers. Hey, Mr. or Mrs. such and such, Dr. such and such, is your blood sterile? And they all look at you like, yeah, I got this one easy, doc. Of course it's sterile. I'm thinking, wrong. I go, brr, And I'll tell you, not only sterile blood, but inside your cells, are your cells sterile inside? And they get the answer wrong, of course, too, because your cells grow mycobacteria, fungi, and viruses, and they go in and screw up your DNA and epigenetics and switch on and off genes. And guess what turns it back to normal? Nutrimedical. And, of course, there are things to repair DNA like ellagic acid from the terminal tubulia, full vitamin K2, minoquinone 7, and malignoblock. People say, you're kidding. I said, yeah, I am not kidding. And, of course, we have graviola as well in our NutriDefense that helps the intracellular regeneration of the cell and is just as powerful as carnivore. I hear a lot of people pushing carnivore for your immune system. It doesn't work on your immune system. It works on the intracellular pathogen. So if you've got cancer or precancer, it'll help to switch the genes back. But the most powerful stimulus is anti-pathogenics. Nutrimedical is the big bad guy. The next is Allicin Med, and then Silver 100. They're all very powerful, but the most powerful of all. So, John, I literally haven't found a disease that doesn't respond to Nutrimedical now. I don't care if you've got balding from tinea ovale on your scalp that's killing the roots. I don't care if it's a chronic sinus infection with osteomyelitis in your sphenopalatine fossa of your sinus cavities. I don't care if it's tooth root problems with chronic periodontal nica. I don't care if it's coronary artery disease with infested plaque that's got nanobacteria in it. There really is no disease that will not respond to Nutrimedical, is there?
That's correct, Dr. Bill. We just haven't found anything that doesn't respond in some positive way to the way Nutrimedical.
Major ways. We get people that have had, unstable MS that continues to relapse and remit. We give our nutraceuticals to repair the oligodendrocyte myelination. We give transcranial lumen photon and micropulse therapy. We give them mild hyperbaric oxygen. We give them the Nutrimedical, Allicin Med, and Silver to kill off the pathogens. And Nutrimedical is a big bad guy. Pathogens are gone. And we are joined with Fareed. Fareed, good to have you back. I've been scrambling around trying to get things done with breaks.
Hey.
Cardiovasc. We talked about the basis of heart disease, and I'm going to be having on in the next few weeks the technologists from two companies, the Endopat technology, as well as the technology looking at capillary temperature, as well as capillary flow using flow analysis. As I mentioned before, I like to break things down to engineering principles. And this is, by the way, for all you health professionals, from nurses to doctors to naturopaths to chiropractors to cardiologists especially, listen up. Whatever you think you know and have mastered the science of what cardiovascular health is, you know nothing. Now, that may seem insulting to you, but the fact is, here's a point. They did a study, and they actually took pigs, and they actually removed their hearts, but connected their blood vessels. So they bypassed their hearts, actually, in the circuit, and they put them in hyperbaric oxygen. Guess what happened to the pigs? They didn't die when they're in hyperbaric chamber. And the reason is their arteries pump the blood around the pigs, so they stayed alive. Your blood vessels pump the blood. Your heart is only what's called a primary wave. Your blood pressure goes up when your capillaries and your arteries are not producing nitric oxide or producing a peristaltic wave of your arteries, arterioles, and then your capillary bed, and then your venules and veins going back to the inferior vena cava. In fact, a good example of it, and I mentioned this before to repeat it, is your right side of your heart does not pump blood back to the heart. It's not a sucking pump that'll pull the blood back from your body. The blood is pumped back to your body by your blood vessels. Now, blood pressure simply means your heart is picking up autonomic and chemical signs indicating, primarily through the kidney and the carotid body, signals that it tells the body's tissues that you're not perfusing them sufficiently, so they start to do biochemical changes, autonomic changes, to increase the driving pressure of the heart, trying to push the blood through the arteries, which it does a very poor job. And eventually, of course, that high pressure causes arteriovascular, muscular, and other changes to the arteries. It can even rupture the aorta or cause a double-barreled aorta developing called a aortic aneurysm that can kill you because it's one of the fastest ways to die. Blood vessel disease, including damage to the intimal lining, can also result in plaque, and it can develop an atheroma, but it also can cause emboli, which can cause a stroke or heart attack. So, this is a short course on cardiovascular disease. If you're trying to prevent heart disease, you don't want to get a knockoff. You do not want to get extended divided heart and body, Strauss heart drops, or any other knockoffs trying to reproduce the amazing nutraceutical formula and the quality of monitoring of the biomolecules and the right part of the plant in Cardivite, which is now called Cardiovasc. That's our U.S. version. So when we're talking about this, people say, well, can you prove that? Yeah, we have these new tests now, like Endopat, that can look at your capillary vascular bed. I had in my office for a number of years a cardiovascular machine because I was referred cases with people with hypervascular disorders. And I also work with what's called the Vascular Hypercoag Lab, which is one of the top ones in the world in Denver. So I even have subspecialists in endocrinology, internal medicine, and hematology referring cases for me to do an analysis, look at their genes, their rheologic blood flow, etc. Okay? So if you think you're specialized and you really know this stuff and you worked as a cardiologist for years, you know nothing. The fact is there are actual experiments proving that the heart does not pump your blood alone. Your heart starts the primary waves, the primary thing driving your blood are your blood vessels. And if your vessels aren't healthy, if they've got heavy metals and free iron, if they've got oxidative stress-forming plaque, if the intimal lining has been damaged and not being repaired, and if you're not detoxifying the body from all this garbage, your blood vessel walls, which are very thin, the intimal lining is one cell layer thin, you're in big trouble. So that's what Cardiovasc is all about, and it's one of the most important nutraceuticals we tell people. Every adult, don't wait till you have hypertension, every adult should be on it, and any child with any illness. My daughter with Down syndrome, she's 22, no evidence that she has hypertension or anything else. She's on it now to continue and maintain her perfusion. So I want to get this through to you. You don't wait till you get a disease to chase it with drugs. And of course, that's why your doctor is primarily a salesperson for drug companies. I'm a scientist that has applied my wisdom and knowledge and skill sets to problem solve to tell you before you get disease, the pre-pathology, functional medicine abnormalities are the seeds in the ground on which the disease grows. And by the time you have pathology, you are royally screwed, and it's hard for us to reverse it, but we can, but it takes a long time, months and years, and Cardiovasc is one of those components. So let's go through some of them for me to kind of get people tuned up to exactly how important it is to take Cardiovasc. And I'm talking about not just people with heart problems. Every adult over 20 should be on it, and this is why.
Sure. Thanks, Dr. Bill. So, yeah, I mean, Cardiovasc, otherwise known as Cardivite, is a product developed by my dad, and my dad is a retired pharmacist, got over 30 years practicing natural medicine in the pharmacy setting. So his training and background, he was educated in Germany at the University of Würzburg, and he took 5 years of pharmacognosy, which is just a fancy way of saying the study of medicinal plants.
Right.
Anyhow, fast forward to 1999, he's got a drugstore that's treating mainly through natural methods, and although he has regular prescriptions as well, but primarily his preference is always natural methods. And so he was approached by the Chelation Society of Alberta, a guy by the name of Arley, I can't remember his last name. Anyways, they approached him on developing a product specific to help chelation patients, improve circulation, flush out toxins, and strengthen the heart. And so Cardivite has got 7 ingredients. The first and one of the most important ingredients is the hawthorn. And the hawthorn that we use is a leaf and flower extract, and we use a hawthorn grown in Europe. So it's not a Chinese hawthorn, it's not an Indian hawthorn, it's grown in Europe, and that's what the studies that show the benefit require that it be from that part of the world, and also the leaf and flower, not the berry.
Exactly. Now, the important thing is we have technology now that can measure it. When people say that they go to the doctor to get their blood pressure measured, Do you realize now that I've given you this thesis that I'm sure if I had Guyton, that wrote Guyton's Physiology in front of me, he'd be nodding his head saying, yes, Deagle, yes, yes. The hyperbaric specialists have taken these bypass operations on pigs. All the people that are working on vascular perfusion and endothelial function and B-scan ultrasounds, they all nod their head, yes, yes. Exactly. The heart doesn't pump your blood alone. It's heart plus blood vessels, and the blood vessels do the majority of what I call the bulk work. Think of it this way: the heart is like the guy on the wagon train with the whipping the horses, but the horses are your blood vessels.
Yeah,
interesting.
And so the cardiovascular contains a number of ingredients that are specific for the blood vessels, namely the cayenne, the ginkgo, and the bilberry.
Right, and then of course it has the valerian to balance your autonomic nervous system, the aged garlic to kill the nanobacteria and cause a natural ACE inhibition, the milk thistle to detox your liver of the heavy metals and chemicals that interfere with endothelial function. It's an amazing formula, and I tell people that don't play around with little dosages. If your pressure's not coming down, bump it up. I take 4 capsules twice a day. I don't take little itty-bitty dosages. Plus, I take a ton of other nutraceuticals. I have my bag of nutraceuticals I have to take after the show today. And if you take the right nutraceuticals and the right diet and exercise, like VibraFit, mild hyperbaric oxygen, you will transform your life. But cardiovascular is for every adult, not just for people that think they're going to get heart disease or hypertension.